Hello and welcome to Arsenal Above All. It's been a couple of weeks. We've had a bit of a holiday. I've got some familiar faces back with me tonight, Brian and Neil. And in the 2 weeks that's gone, sadly, it seems the cost of living crisis has got a little bit worse. Unfortunately, 105 million for Rice. I mean, it's just as well that we are the Bank of England club, what they call us. Me, Neil, and Brian can't wait to get into this. So let's go. Hello and welcome to a transfer special. We've finally got some bodies in. I say finally, but it's we're on sort of uncharted territory here. We've on the verge of getting three big signings in, and looking down on the computer, it says the 29th of June, which I don't think that's kind of happened before in any of our lifetimes supporting Arsenal. Just to break in tonight, it looks like we've agreed a fee with Jurien Timber from Ajax. So technically, potentially, we've dropped something like 210 million in a space of a few days, which is unreal. To go through that and a lot more with me, I've got Brian Haley. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good, Mike. Yeah, excited, should we say?
Be excited. That's the one. Be excited, isn't it? Yeah, that's the one we need to say. Thanks for joining me, Brian, as always. And I've got the man, the myth, the legend, the transfer guru. Please, everyone, please get the Neil Shah book bestseller. The title is "It's Only Official When He's Wearing the Shirt." We'll sell it all stockists at Waterstones, Amazon. Get it while you can. It's Neil Shah. How you doing, my friend?
I feel like I've stepped into the multiverse. So this doesn't
man.
happen before. What, over 200 million before June? What is going on? Honestly, thanks for having me on. Great to be back on this amazing podcast. So yeah, looking forward to this. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming on as always. And like I said, appreciate your time. So yesterday, finally announced that Kai Havertz is a Gooner, 65 million pound deal from Chelsea. Actually, it was 50 million with 15 million add-ons. You know, the media like to tack on the add-ons to bump up the fee. Whereas, for example, McAllister was signed. In the press, you can see, 35 million to Liverpool. What a great deal. Actually, if you add the add-ons, it's 55 million, but they don't tack it. They don't tack it on when it's them. When it's us, they give us the whole thing and say, "Oh, how can Arsenal spend all this money?" Well, we'll talk about that later. But yes, Kai Havertz is an Arsenal player. That's a leaked photo of him. Probably, I don't think I've seen the guy smile as much as I have, or when I've seen him play. He always looks like a miserable sod. But on the video and the release video and the announcement video and all the pictures of him and his dogs, I think even one of his dogs is smiling. One he posted earlier as well. Finally got him over the line, and then a few hours later, we agree a deal with Declan Rice with West Ham after that little saga. And just breaking, obviously, tonight, it seems like we've agreed a fee for Jurien Timber from Ajax. Brian, I'll start with you. Technically, I've not witnessed anything like this before. I know that we've spent a lot of money last couple of seasons, but to do it in such a short space of time, before pre-season has officially started, which kicks off next week. You've had a few hours to sort of digest what's going on and what is still going on. What's your thoughts on it? I mean, a lot of people are saying this is a statement, couple of statement signings for the club, and building on what we did last season. What's your take on it?
I think this has been something which has been in the pipeline anyway. I think Edu and Arteta have they're forward. We know now that they're very much forward thinking. They have the club its best interests. They've seen the progress. The Cronkies in themselves have seen where we've come from, and I think they've effectively put the money where their mouths is, and I suppose showing to Mikel Arteta the job that he's actually done, for them to then give him the money to go and then make the next step. I think we've spoken before regarding to Declan Rice. It's something that we needed, and we knew it was going to touch £100 million anyway. It wasn't a secret. It was going to be in and around that amount. It was just on the basis if we were going to pay that sort of money in the first place, which we have, and we've shown the levels of the intent. The two other signings we've got, Kai Havertz and Timber, when he comes through. We've had to have that intent of moving forward. We've got back in the Champions League. We now need to show that the fact is that we've been second in the league last season. Yes, we should have won the league. We know all of that. That's history now. It's now about moving forward. And this is basically showing to people that we are where we are now, and we're now going to look to take the next steps going forward with that. And I'm very happy. The early part of the transfers is even more spectacular for us, as we know. But to be fair, since the end of the season, I've probably been looking at every newspaper, every online article and stuff like that with regarding to what was going to happen. And I just did not feel that the fact is we could get ourselves drawn out into another saga. This transfer window is long enough as it is.
Yeah.
So it's September the 1st. We cannot afford to be dragging ourselves out like we've done in seasons and seasons in the past. And I think Arteta and Edu know that now, and they know that we're in a position that the fact is we're in a very strong position. They're in a strong bargaining position as well, because it got us this far. To now basically put the money where the mouth is, and let's take the next step moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Neil, touching on that, I mean, it seems like after the Mudryk situation, with the way that deal was again, as Brian said earlier, another saga. We didn't want it to be another saga because that was the case. It was every day. It was something different. Do you think the way that we've seems to have managed to have 3 quite huge deals in a row is just the way they've just changed tact? Obviously there was information about Rice right from the end of the January window saying that he's our sort of number 1 target. It seems to me like obviously they've definitely thrown people off and changed tack in terms of how they were going to attack the window, because to have 3 big deals like this, to pull it off potentially, we haven't seen anything like this before, have we? I mean, we've seen it spread over the course of the summer, and then right at the end of the transfer window, maybe a deadline day, or we will finish it off there. But what are your thoughts on just the way we've managed to structure these deals and pull it off? I'm still I didn't like to see so much of the information leaked as it was, but I think that was mainly down to West Ham and them being in the spotlight as such. Someone's after one of our key players. We want to make a soap opera out of it. Whereas if you deal with a bigger club, let's say Chelsea, look at how that Havertz deal was kind of done a little bit more smoother than the West Ham one. So what was your take on the whole on the way we've dealt with the Havertz incoming and Rice as well?
First, I'll just touch on your point that you just made about the publicity. I think you're right. I think West Ham, because they're end of the day, that's probably their hugest sale. Well, it is their hugest sale ever. It's equal the hugest British or English transfer fee, hasn't it? So for them, I suppose they needed to do that so they could get into a bidding war and try and get the best possible price from. I think Brian hit the nail on the head. We were always going to pay, if not 100 mil, very close to 100 mil for a player of his caliber. So in that respect, although it's annoying and frustrating, I'm not surprised that it became a bit of a circus and a bit of a media show. With Chelsea, I think the issue they just need to sell. They just need to sell, and I think they just want to just get them done, and they want as little drama as possible, and they don't want to drag it on. So I think that's the difference between the two clubs. As for us, which is the most important thing, I'm absolutely stoked. We've been waiting. Well, we've waited forever for something like this. You're right. We've bought. I mean, if you go back, Ozil was our first big marquee signing all those years ago, and that was at the 11th hour on the. And I hate that. I really hate that. I've always said, why can't we get our deals and transfers done early so the players can come in and adjust? They can get used to the way of life living in London. They can get used to their surroundings, their environment, the club, the training facilities, and their co-players, and then they even can be part of the pre-season friendlies as well. I've always hated us getting players in when the season was already started, because I think that can disrupt the balance if there's any already to start with. And I just think let's get them in early, get the key ones in early. Yeah, if we get a couple late on, fair enough, but get the key ones, the ones that we need in those key positions, nice and early. They can adjust to everyone around them. And I think Edu and Arteta are starting to really get that, have learned from what's happened in the past, not just with them in charge, but even their predecessors, and even with what's happened with them. And I think they're both in business in terms of selling and buying. They're getting a lot cuter. I mean, Arteta got rid of a lot of deadwood. I think he bought one of the best January signings I've ever experienced in Trossard in January. I think things are really happening with the club. And as to these players, I mean, obviously at the moment I will more highlight Hertz. I call him Hertz, Killer Hertz, because he's done and dusted. But yeah, it looks like Rice is going to be done, and hopefully Justin Timberlake as well. I think fantastic signings. And for me, even if it just stays at those three now, but big but here, we have to secure Saliba massively. I know it looks like they're saying there's some talk that he's back from holiday and everything is done and dusted. I just want the Arsenal officially to announce it. And I also want ESR to stay. And then if you've got those three, and then if we get a couple more on top, boy, the things are happening for our club. Honestly, this is a massive statement of intent. We're not messing around anymore. And I think from what Brian said earlier, the fact that we've hit, it doesn't matter whether we come second, third or fourth now, we got into the Champions League, which was the main thing. It was a shame we didn't win the Premiership, but don't worry, that's happening this season. The fact that we're in the Champions League is allowing us to lure these big players in, which is something that we haven't had for a few years. And I think the fact that we are showing the rest of the league that our owners finally are willing to put their hands in their pocket and spend this big money, I think a lot of our competitors are going to start getting a little bit frightened, because without these signings, we almost did it last season. So now with these signings, we've just increased our depth, and we needed to do that because of the Champions League anyway. So, Michael, I'm absolutely thrilled by this. I can't be more happy with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that's the next phase of it, really, because I think the way it seems like it could be broken down is June was to get the incomings, and then July. Now you could say, okay, now we can concentrate on who we want to get out of the club, who we want to loan out, who do we want to try and permanently get out, and that you add to that, you've got the pre-season obviously aspect of it, going away on tour. So the bodies that you've got in early, as you said, they can integrate with the team a lot better. Obviously, Arteta's style of play. Obviously, I'm sure he's got a new system he's going to put in place. And then obviously, if you've got June to get the players in, July to get players out, then that leaves you the luxury almost of August to kind of say, okay, we'll start the season, obviously against Forest, and obviously the next couple of games, and then it gives you, okay, maybe we need one or two in a certain position, or maybe you might need one, and we still got that time to maybe get that person in before the deadline, the transfer deadline. So again, if that's kind of the way that they're doing it, you've got to tip your hat off to Edu and Garlick and the recruitment team, the way that they've structured this summer. And like you said, there were a lot of clubs will be looking at this. I know United have agreed a fee with Chelsea for Mount tonight. But a lot of their fans were looking enviously at us, thinking, "What's going on? You know, we haven't done anything yet. We put a couple of bids in for him, but we haven't done anything yet, really." But yeah, I think it's definitely a statement of intent, because obviously Brian, as you know, end of the season, all the pundits were saying, "Oh, that's it for Arsenal. We're not going to get never going to get a chance like this again. You know, we're not going to improve. Everyone else will. You know, your Chelsea's, your Liverpool's, whatever. Tottenham will improve." And it's like, okay, what, we're going to just stand still? We're not. You know, we haven't. You know, the only thing now is what do we do in terms of that depth now? How do we address that? Do we, you know, people are talking about obviously Xhaka going, Partey going. Personally, I would like us to. It looks like Xhaka's going to go. You know, going by all the words of, you know, in the grapevine, what have you. But I think Partey is the one that's going to be interesting, because I would like to keep Partey. I think there's situations where, for example, we've got Everton quite early away. In that situation, I'd love to play Partey and Rice in a double pivot away to Everton, knowing what you're going to be up against Onana and Decore's running and stuff like that. So you've got the option to do that. And then obviously you play against Forest, for example, at home. You can just play Rice there if you wanted to, you know. But I think if Partey goes, I think that's a little bit too much experience going out. I know Jorginho's there, and he sort of featured towards the end. But what's your thoughts, Brian, in terms of the depth? Because obviously that's the next part of this phase of this transfer window. It's important for us to, you know, as Neil said, Champions League, we can't go into too weak in that. We can't just get rid of players for the sake of it. But what's your thoughts on that, and how we need to address that in terms of what types of guys should be looking to get out the door?
Well, I kind of did a bit of a calculation regarding it. There's potentially that it could be, you know, anything from 10 to 12 players that could leave. Realistically, so we're looking from Pablo Mari's probably he's gone already effectively. Rob Holding, you know, one of the keepers, Charlie Patino. The one for me is the Balogun one. That is the one which is kind of, I can see that lingering. That will be the one that will linger, and that, you know, the club's going to have to make a real decision around that situation, because I think, as much as we're hearing, you know, it's a choice between Balogun and Nketiah who may leave, the choice has got to be made somewhere, because we're going to need an extra forward. Because I know we're saying about Kai Havertz, the versatility that he has, and where he's played with Chelsea and stuff like that. But to be honest with you, he needs a position to play in to thrive. We don't want a Kai Havertz what we got from Chelsea effectively, and then asking him to do 16 different jobs and not fulfilling any of them. So that's something that needs to be looked at. You have to either keep Balogun or Nketiah, or get one. You know, that's that situation there. And then you've got Nicolas Pepe, you've got Xhaka, you've got Tavares, Suarez, Lokonga, and arguably Thomas Partey. But yeah, on that one, I would actually keep him. Absolutely. So there's, you know, we're talking about 10 players that have got effectively going. We've brought 3 in. So to me, we're still gonna probably have to look at bringing 1 or 2 to add to the depth into the squad for the Champions League. Because when I started looking at kind of the positions, you know, the left back situation, Kieran Tierney being another one. You know, will he stay? Will he go? Obviously, you know, I want him to stay. That is more squad depth for us in the Champions League. Absolutely. You know, are we looking at Fabio Vieira staying, or is he going to go out on loan? So there's lots of different kind of permutations we've got to kind of look at within that squad. But arguably, the Thomas Partey situation, absolutely he needs to stay. I still think we probably need 1 or 2 just to give it a bit of balance in around there, and just, you know, just keep us a little bit ticking over as well. I think the free key is brilliant, but yeah, you know, we're fortunate to a certain degree that the market basically does end the 1st of September. So, you know, there is a bit of dabbling around, particularly even when the season starts. It's 2.5 weeks basically into the season. So there's a little bit of dabbling about. So we've got a bit of an opportunity there of feeling a few people out. The kid from Southampton is another one. So one or two certainly more will have to come in, because there's going to be quite a few that's going to go. So
yeah, I mean, that's the fundamental thing, really. The names that you've reeled off, that's a lot of people, and I think I think people are saying that it looks like someone's going to go. It's going to either be Eddie or Balogun. It's likely to be more Balogun because he's probably going to command a bigger fee. But this is where I think Arteta is going to have to sort of maybe put the arm around a couple of people, especially people like Tierney, to tell him that there's going to be games for him, especially off the back of weeks where we've got Premier League, Champions League, Premier League. The levels can't drop too much, because obviously we're not in that position where we can be like City, where they can make 4 or 5 changes and the level doesn't drop so much. So you're right. I think we're going to have to get a few more bodies in, and I think that's why people like Partey, especially Partey, if Xhaka's going, you can't really sort of let the guy go. If we can get a Partey where Thomas Partey where he, we get 20-25 games out of him.
Yeah.
Because for the first 29 games this season, he was outstanding. People were talking about him in comparison to Casemiro and Rodri, and then he fell off after that around Ramadan. He fell off the cliff for some reason. He's fasting, maybe, I don't know. But if we can get Partey where we're not reliant on him so much, so he stays a bit fit and fresher, he's going to be a fantastic. Someone to have in the squad for depth. I mean, what's your feelings, Neil? I mean, obviously the names that Brian reeled off, obviously Balogun, obviously Pepe, Tierney. Do you see? There's talks about Tierney maybe going to Celtic, on loan, which I don't understand. It seems like the Newcastle stuff is kind of cooled a bit. What's your thoughts in it? I mean, I know you don't like to talk about transfers coming in too much, but what are you kind of, is that nothing to worry about, but is that something that we need to make sure we get absolutely right so we don't leave ourselves short again, the turn of the year?
I think we're in a bit of a fortuitous position where if we're making our key signings in early, we've got time to think about who we want to offload. And even if that happens near the end of the window, it doesn't matter. I don't mind that. I don't mind the outgoings going out late. It's the incomings I want in early. So there's time to think about it. Tierney loaned to Celtic, that doesn't make any sense to me. None at all. I would like to keep Tierney, unless we're in for a left back, which no one knows anything about yet, which is a different story. But Zinchenko, as good as he is, as I said so many times, when things are working out well, he's unbelievable. But when we're on the back foot and we're defending and we're maybe trying to chase a game, he's not so effective as a defender. So I think we need an orthodox left back, and that we've already got that person in Tierney. And 100%, the fact that we're in 4 competitions and 2 major competitions, he will get game time. He's got to get game time. So I hope, as you said, Arteta can kind of persuade him to stay if there is any thoughts in his mind that he wants to go. But to go on loan, that doesn't make any sense. If we're going to do that, we might as well just get rid of him. I don't see the point of loaning him out. Partey, I'm 50-50. I'm maybe more for him to stay. I think he's a great player. I'm still going to say, and I've said it, and you're probably sick of me hearing me say this. He fell off for me when Saliba got injured. When Saliba was in the team, he was fantastic. And I think if we're going to get Justin in, and then we got or Saliba, we got Kyrgios or Gabriel, I don't think we're going to have that issue again. I really don't, because obviously with Holding, I respect thoroughly, and I've always liked him as a player. But I think when he plays, we're not as attacking, we're not as forward, we're not the high press team that we're allowed to be, and we're having to worry a little bit about the defence. And I think that just disrupted the balance, which I think disrupted Partey's play. And I think it's a combination of that and possibly what you mentioned, Michael, about the fasting and the onset of Ramadan. So I would like to keep Partey, but if he does go, we've always got potentially. I'm hearing rumours that we're still thinking about Caicedo from Brighton, maybe. So then we're going to have Jorginho, Rice, Caicedo, and it's looking all good, isn't it? the other players that Brian, maybe, I don't know if you did mention, we've also got Marquinhos still on loan. But I think I don't know. I'd like to see him, but I think if we don't loan him, I think we're more likely to see him in the domestic cup games. We've obviously got Cedric. Has he gone yet? I don't think so. So we need to think about him. So there are a lot of players, but I think Brian hit the nail on the head again. I mean, we're looking at between 10 and 12 potential outgoings. So we still need to get maybe a couple in. But the fact is, I think what's happening now is we are really, the players that we've got in or will remain with the club are going to be all quality. We've always wanted those 2 players for every position. And I think that is what Arteta is aiming for. And we're getting there. I mean, you look, if Timber comes in, I mean, the central defence is done, isn't it? Saliba stays, Timber comes in. We've already got that. You know, it's potentially if Tierney stays, we've got that on the other side. We've got it with Tomiyasu and White on the right side. I mean, wow. When have we ever had this? It's unbelievable. So I'm with you guys. I think yes, we're going to have to look at the outgoings as well, and obviously we need to get some cash in from those potential sales. But gosh, I didn't know about this Tierney on loan to Celtic. No, I don't agree with that. That's ridiculous. Partey, wait and see. We'll have to wait and see with Partey. But I think there is still a very good player in Partey. People who sit there poo-pooing him, I don't understand that. I think he's a great player. Personally.
Agree. Yeah, I think it's just knee-jerk stuff, and maybe people are trying to wash their hands of him a little bit, maybe because of the off-field stuff. It's almost like, well, we've managed to get through the season without that stuff sort of blowing up. Let's sort of, it's like almost like a ticking time bomb thing. It's like get him out before it goes, sort of thing. I think there's an element of that as well in some people's judgment. But yeah, of course, if he's playing like he did the first 3-4 months of the season, then why would you have him? Again, like I said, there's going to be games where you could play him and Rice. We're talking Rice like it's all done and everything. But there's times you can play them too as a double pivot, especially like for example against Man City and things like that, and that's going to be huge. But yeah, I mean you're right. Now in terms of the cover or the depth we've got defensively, it's pretty special. I mean, I think the only concern people have maybe got is still the right side of the attack with Saka, because obviously on the left hand side you've got Trossard and Martinelli to a certain extent. So you're kind of good there. Up front, maybe as well, people say about striker, and obviously people saying Kai Havertz is he's played there before. But I just wanted to look some information because this is another case of a player from Chelsea who was bought with great hype about how good he was going to be and this and that. And we've seen it before with Kevin De Bruyne. We've seen it before with Mohamed Salah. And things didn't work out for whatever reason. And we know the rest. We know the history with those two. I'm not saying that he's in that bracket, but he's another player that's gone to Chelsea with big money, big expectations, didn't work out, left and flourished at a Premiership club. Obviously, De Bruyne went back to Germany, I think, for a bit, and then came was bought by City. But just looking at Havertz's numbers for Bayer Leverkusen, because I think that's the one which people are talking about. We want to get him back to that. So you look at his figures. I mean, that's the reason why people were going mad about him. But the thing that's sticking out for me is his output as an attacking midfielder. He's played 84 times. Obviously, there's more positions where there's more times he's played. He's played centre midfield, I think, once for Bayer Leverkusen. I think he's played on other positions as well. But I just picked out the main ones. But the one that obviously that's looking at, picking out is the right winger. So he's played on the right-hand side. He's 32 times for Leverkusen. 16 goals and 9 assists in that role. So I'm just not saying that he's Saka's replacement, but again, it just shows you the options that Arteta has at his disposal going forward. Obviously, you want to get a more natural, because obviously you say, who is Saka's replacement? Is it Marquinhos? When he comes back from loan, is it Nelson? Because obviously he looks like he's going to sign a new contract. And I know Neil, obviously you love him to do that. But it's just showing again the options that Arteta has then if it needs to, if it comes to it, he could he's look at the output there, in the times that he's played there. I just thought, I just thought it was quite interesting. Obviously, it looks like he's going to play in the Xhaka role or the Xhaka position, but maybe a little bit more advanced. And I think it all leads to Arteta playing a different sort of formation, a different kind of system. Because you've got to remember that last season, Arteta gave Xhaka an ultimatum. He says, "We need you to play or learn this new position. Otherwise, I have to do something." That's basically what he said to him. He said, we need more output from you going forward in attack." And he basically said, I need you to unlock something in your brain. I think that's actually his quote. I need you to unlock something in your brain so you can have more of an output up front in attack. And to be fair to Xhaka, he went away, he came back. He was slimmer. Arteta said he came back slimmer, he was sharper. And we look at his numbers. So you kind of think, well, if you've got a more of attack-minded guy in that position, like Havertz, I'm quite excited about what he's going to be actually doing. The late runs he does, his aerial, getting onto headers. I'm quite excited in terms of what numbers. I think he's going to blow up. I really, I'm not just saying that. I think when the news came through that we were after him, Brian, I was a bit okay, really. But when you break it down and look at it, clearly, you can see that the guy's talented. He is talented, and I think he's just been struck down with the Chelsea batshit situation that they always are in. That players don't perform there, they leave, their stock goes up. We've seen it with Lukaku, we've seen it with Timo Werner, who couldn't buy a goal. He's gone back to Germany and he's scoring goals left, right, centre again. So I'm quite excited about what he's going to bring. It's just how that system is going to work. But what's your...
I think you're right, Mike. I think the system's going to be one of the key things. I think the other thing is basically making him feel at home at the club as well. I think with Chelsea, it was too disruptive for a player like him. It was too disruptive, and they're asking him as a £75 million signing for them to do various different jobs for them to try and get something and trying to get the results. Yeah, obviously, he scored the winner in the Champions League final and everything and stuff like that. But last season we saw how they just generally just imploded. But the system is going to be is the key, where Arteta sees him in his best position, and to keep him in that best position. That's where we will see the best Kai Havertz, I personally think, and that level of focus. The job to be done, and the same thing, obviously, as you just said, Mike, with regarding Xhaka, when Arteta had a word with him, it will be the same situation. Now, does that generally mean he kind of, does he play off the free? Does he play in a midfield free? Does he play, that Xhaka role was kind of a free, but slightly further forward. It was, then the responsibilities in and around what Declan Rice effectively does there as well in that particular role. Hence, it then goes back to the Thomas Partey situation as well. So it's kind of, we've got to have a plan. If we're going to have a plan A, the plan A, how that revolves with Kai Havertz in the team. And what then will be our plan Bs when we have to change things in different situations in games. And that's where it's going to be quite intriguing to see the opening game of the season of how we kind of we set up, and particularly with the personnel, because if we say, for argument's sake, we start relatively the same side that we started the first game of last season, playing the same way we did, people are going to just think to themselves, well, we're playing the same way we did last season, and effectively it didn't work towards the back end of the season. And then we know what to pick off. Zinchenko down that left side, argument's sake. So it will be quite interesting to see how the new plan fits in with the particular individuals that we brought in for certainty.
Yeah, definitely. I think pre-season is going to be pretty good, because obviously we're playing United, we're playing Barcelona. I think we're going to be playing against Messi, the MLS All-Star game, and so they're going to be obviously the latter two, and obviously City in the Community Shield. As you said, he scored a goal in the Champions League final. He's put a dagger in him, a bit of a dent in him, a significant one. He's potentially stopped them from winning back-to-back Champions Leagues. Who knows, if they'd have won that first one, they might have won the one year and this year as well. So he's done some damage to them as well. So it's going to be interesting to see, again, the pre-season, how he gets that system up and running. But just going on to before we go on to just expectations and everything, I don't want to talk about Rice too much yet. I don't want to jinx it, because I know Neil will kill me, because he's not in the shirt yet, and and I know that he's going to go against the book he's launching, with that title. If he's not in the shirt, it's not done. It's not a done deal. So I won't show Neil this mock up. That's a mock up. So sorry Neil. It's Declan Rice in an Arsenal shirt. So sorry Neil, and I've just jinxed it. But so just saying, because obviously I think you touched right at the very start. I think Neil talked about Saliba, but if you break down what we've done since probably towards the middle part after we got back from the World Cup, we extended Gabriel's Magalhaes' contract, we extended Ramsdale's contract, and obviously there's been talks about Saliba. It looks like we've agreed something with him. Obviously Gabriel Martinelli's contract, Saka's contract, and obviously now Declan Rice, potentially Havertz, 24-year-old. I think those two are the oldest of those guys that we've signed, which is insane. So we're properly future-proofing the squad. It's like these guys can play with each other for a good 2, 3, 4 years, and we'll be in a position where, okay, for what it's worth, if things don't work out, we can maybe then generate to recuperate, to reinvest. If that, we don't want that, obviously. But the fact that we've done all of that work, and with what we're doing now, Timber, I think Timber's 22, I think, and the experience he's got, it's like youth and experience. I think you tweeted that, Neil, earlier tonight. Youth and experience. It's amazing what the way we're looking at it and where we've come from in terms of doing our transfers to where we were years ago, with Peter Cech being the only person through the door, Socrates coming in, on a free, Mustafi. Let's not talk about him. Players of that ilk, and where we kind of are now, it's pretty amazing. So Neil, if you obviously, I know we've got potentially 2 in, but everything else we know, what would you rate the window so far out of 10 if you had to rate it?
Right. Okay. If Rice and Justin are confirmed, which I'm expecting them to be, even me saying that, surprise, surprise. I think if that's it, I'm not discounting the outgoings. I mean that will take care of itself. I think I'll be quite pleased with that, actually. I was always with Jack on the right wing situation. However, thinking about it, we've got potentially, obviously Saka's a machine. He's going to predominantly own that position for touchwood most of the season. But there's going to be times where he's going to need to be rested, which I completely am fully behind, because I felt that he had burnt himself out towards the end a little bit. But now we've got potentially Jesus can play in that position, and then we can bring Martinelli and or Trossard into the middle. So we've got options there. We've talked about Havertz, who could potentially play in that position. Nelson, I'm praying that he signs. I know some people are dead against this, but I still see something in that boy. He did what he did with only playing 178 minutes the whole season. I mean, it's ridiculous. Give the guy some chances. Give him some time. So we've got Nelson. I don't think we need to invest in that position anymore, as much as how at one point it was probably one of the most important positions to invest in. Now I think we've got options, and that's where that is where I'm so fully behind what Edu and Arteta are doing. I think they're being so cute in the transfer market, not just looking at getting in, quality players, but getting in the quality players that can fit into our system so well. They're looking beyond. How can you say? They're looking outside the box, I think, with their signings. And it's almost like for each segment of the pitch, whether it be defence, midfield, or forward, they're getting in players that can be almost utility players within that realm, if that makes sense. I mean, it's amazing. Even Martinelli can play on the right. He's not as effective on the right, but he can if need be. So it's all. I'm not worried about the forward lineup at all. I think that's done and dusted. I mean, it'd be lovely to get Mbappe in. It'd be lovely to get Caicedo in as well. I mean, Jesus. I mean, if we do that, we're winning the quadruple 4 seasons on the trot, mate. Let me tell you. You never know. You never know. You never know. But I love the fact. You see, in the past, what we used to do would get in these amazing young players, whether it be from the academy or whether it be from outside or external sources. They're one for the future. They're going to be amazing. And it never quite worked out. It never did. And I've always said, enough of transition. We need to build for now, right now. And the great thing is, then in those days, I was crying out for experienced players, maybe a little bit older. But what these guys are doing, they're getting in younger players with experience, with quality. I mean, you can't ask for more than that, because you're looking at the here and now, yes, box ticks, but also maybe 3, 4, 5 seasons ahead as well. It's just incredible what they're doing. And the other thing, which is lovely, if you noticed, when after Wenger's golden era, and he started, and I know it's not all of his own fault, because he was having to manage the funds of the stadium, and we had to get rid of our best players year by year, which was really sad. And he had to make do with what he had at his disposal with respect to funds. But he was trying to emulate Barcelona with all those number 10s and those very skillful, raw, talented players, but all very similar. But now what I like is when he first joined, he had some meatheads, strong, huge, tall meatheads. If you look at all the recent signings, they're all 6-footers. Mm-hmm. We're starting to become a big, beefy team again. Mm. And I think this is where the difference is going to lie. This is where we're going to have such an impact. We've come so far last season, which was probably unexpected for most people. We didn't realise that we were just wanting top 4, and wow, we almost won the title. It's unheard of. So the knowledge that those two hopefully have gained from that is going to make us that much better, that much quicker, I believe. And honestly, I think with the transfer window, as you asked initially, if it stays as it is, but this has to have the proviso that ESR, Saliba, and for me, Nelson stays for long term. I would actually give it a solid 8.5, maybe even 9, because it's what we needed. That's it. It's what we needed.
100%. Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned ESR as well, doing bits for the under-21s, which is fantastic. It's like he's having a pre-season. Before pre-season, if he comes off the back of that, looks like they've got a good chance of getting to the final, at least for that. So obviously that means more games for him, and obviously he comes into the pre-season for us, and obviously he needs minutes. So he's another one that such ability and can do again that level. The depth is there. He's there to sort of come in and he's got the experience and the know-how to actually deliver for us if we need to use him. What about yourself, Brian? If we get these ones over the line, Rice and Timber, what are you rating the window out of 10 so far?
I would safely say it's at least an 8 at the moment, because it's a long window for a start. So we've got to think of, as Neil quite rightly said, I think we have to put a little bit aside to the outgoings, but on those bases, those outgoings is that we might have to bring in 1 or 2 more within it as well. And what we bring in with those 1 or 2 that we may or may not necessarily need could be just as critical as the 3 that we've actually just brought in.
Yeah.
So yes, certainly at the moment, I would say it's at least an 8 out of 10. The situation of what we're saying with regarding to the sort of the centre forward aspect of it as well, we've got to look at it worldwide at this moment in time. there is a shortage of decent centre forwards anyway, and if they are out there, they are costing an awful lot of money. So for what we have and what we can rotate around, okay, as an attacking outfit, I think we're all right. I think we're all right. There'll be most, let's just say, other than probably the likes of City and Real Madrid, to be honest with you, there will be most teams that I'd like to have our forward lines at this moment in time, in and around Europe, from what we did last season, and where the goals were shared around as well. So I think we're okay there.
Yeah.
Can I quickly just ask a question of you two?
Yep.
Balogun or Eddie? If it came to that. Balogun. I've been advocating Balogun for a long time.
I would go Balogun, I think. But from what we're hearing, there's been stuff about his not wanting to talk to the club about a possible contract extension. And him demanding that he doesn't want to sit on the bench anymore. He doesn't want to go out on loan anymore. He wants first team football. So the club to be said to him, "We go and find a club then," you know. And
but you're saying that, but wasn't Eddie singing the same tune as well?
Yeah, he was. It's true. So that's why I think pre-season is massive. If he's integrated into the squad, if he's still there, and if he flies to America with the squad, because he's an American international now, he scored a goal. Put him in. Let's see what he does. If he smashes it, if he steps up in pre-season against the teams we're going to be playing against United, who we're going to be playing early on in the season, against Barcelona, obviously won the title. If he does bits there, then there's a good chance. He could effectively say, "Okay, I'm giving you and Eddie. There you go. I'm giving you, chucking down a gauntlet, and let's see which one of you two are going to adhere to the system. Who's going to fit better to the system? Who's going to forego their ego and play so everyone else can continue contributing goals rather than you kind of focusing, I've got to score the goals, as you said." So I think that's why pre-season, you've got to at least keep him until then, let him see what he does, and then and if he integrates well, fits in well, then I would keep him over Eddie. But it's all about money, isn't it? If someone drops 40 million or something like that, I think the club are going to say, okay, let's go, because that's profit. Yeah, that's 40 million that goes straight on. That doesn't, that goes on to the FFP, whatever. Yeah, it's like Chelsea. They sold Mount for 60 million. That goes straight on as profit, because obviously he's come through the academy. So, I'm sure they'll look at that. The KFC will look at that and think, okay, we can pocket that. So what do you think, Brian?
I think he needs a certain. He doesn't need a crack at it. I think because we've given Eddie a crack at it, and in fairness to Eddie, when we didn't have Jesus, he came up with goals for us. So he has shown that the fact is that he arguably should be a part of the squad and having game time, and I think that should be the same thing for Florent Balogun as well. I think he's shown by going out on loan in La Liga to score goals, be one of the leading scorers in Liga, at the age of 21, 22. Okay. That shows to me that there's a level of potential there that we need to have a look at, and we need to probably have a much better look at than what we have had when he was actually kind of in and around the club before we decided to send him out on variations of loan assignments. So I think the frame for him and Eddie is probably a bit of a bigger frame, so he might effectively be more useful in the Premier League for us as well. A bit more of that kind of bullying kind of centre forward rather than being bullied and running off the shoulder. So I would kind of probably look at it, we need to keep him, as I said, we're quite lucky that the window doesn't close until September, September the 1st. So we've got a lot of time to work with to send him anywhere. So it's a good time. It's a good time really to get him to integrated in there, and let's see. We know what Eddie effectively can do and what he does and how he does it and what he's good at, but we need to see what this kid effectively can do on a bit more of a higher stage, should we say?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of interesting, like though, with I think what Arteta's kind of done. It's almost like when Arsenal tried to do Arsene Wenger tried to do the young team squad, let them build together. Fabregas, Nasri, who else? Hleb, obviously,
Walcott,
Phil Walcott. Diaby, Adebayor, and he tried to get them all together and keep them together so they could build this sort of harmony and togetherness. And it kind of seems like it's almost 2.0, but Arteta's signature to it. He's kind of doing. He's taking elements of that, and he's kind of doing it again, but it's more of a modern take on it. He realizes that a lot of these kids, a lot of those guys weren't experienced, but he's getting people within the Premier League who are experienced, and he's adding that to it rather than from outside and they're not kind of experienced. So it's interesting how there's all elements where he's kind of repeating that, because obviously he was in amongst it, some of that, of the back end of that after we got battered by United. So it's interesting that it seems like he's going on that path and almost pulled it off. Just like Wenger almost pulled it off in 2008. But interesting time, exciting times. It's almost like we were saying before. It's like we stepped into a multiverse, an alternate universe of Arsenal. Something happened, and I think I blame Neil, because I always like to blame Neil. And it's crazy. Who would have thought? Arsenal Football Club. Dropping 100 million on a player, and then spending almost 200 million in the space of 3 or 4 days. Obviously, if the Timber deal goes through, and by all intents and purposes, people are saying that it's not going to stop there. Kieran Maguire, a finance guy, was saying today that because Arsenal have reduced so much of the wages, we can do a lot more. In terms of incomings. So I've already told James and Jack of Purely Arsenal to fuel the jet, get the jet ready. We're going to Paris.
Get the man in.
Covert mission under the cover of darkness. We're gonna nab Mbappe and get that done. So hopefully those guys have done some brilliant transfer shows last couple of weeks. So obviously listen to that Purely Arsenal, and I'm sure they'll have one soon with all what's to come. But yeah, Neil's going to be involved. He'll be telling Mbappe about all the history and important. Remember who you are, what you are, represent.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
In fluent French as well. In fluent French, Neil, as well. I expect that. And rip the 14 shirt off Eddie. Sorry, mate, and give it to the king. But
can you imagine though? Can you imagine? Whoa!
Oh, you know what, Neil? I'm living in fantasy world now. But if it ever happens, and Brian, if it ever happened, Henri has to be involved in the announcement video. He's got to be giving him a tour around the Emirates. And then the last bit is like they go to the shirt, and he says, and he's about to give him the shirt, and then Mbappe sort of goes, I can take it from here, and bang, that's it. That's all that announcement video has to be. The long live the king. The king is there, long live the king.
Yeah,
all that,
man.
All that. But let's dream. But it's been an amazing chat with you two. Thank you very much for your time. Sorry about my voice as well. It's been a bit croaky. Trying to shake this thing off, but had to get on and talk about the Arsenal. Getting the business done in the transfer market. We've got the whole Premier League shook. We've got rival fans shook. They can't believe what's going on. We've got journalists, writing articles about us. How Arsenal spending all this money, while forget Chelsea just dropped 600 million, in 5 months. But don't worry about that.
Don't worry about that. Yeah.
Arsenal. Oh my God, what's going on? People are running around offices all over trying to write copy and stuff like that, and trying to take shots at us. But that's what's going to happen, and I think it's going to happen with Rice as well. He's going to get a lot of flack and spotlight from we've seen it before, from others. Even though he's an England player and everything, I think you're going to see the media narrative trying to turn on him now and put a little bit of pressure on him. But I think he'd be all right.
I'd be fine.
But again, yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. We'll probably be back on for a chat when we get Mbappe over the line, and we'll have a tactical breakdown. And Neil will book the hotel on Holiday Road for the parade when we do the quad.
It's happening. I'm telling you.
You've got to get in early, Neil. You've got to get in early because it's going to be mental. But that's all for tonight. Thanks, Brian Haley. He's over there. There he is. Yeah, Brian Haley, and the man down there, Neil Shah. Please buy his book. Please buy his book. It's not done till he's in the shirt. It'll be all good bookstores. And I'm buzzing, man. I'm just chatting rubbish now. I'm just buzzing. Our team is moving mad.
You've got every right to be buzzing.
I've not seen stuff like this, so I'm buzzing, mate. I'm gonna go to Sainsbury's in a minute. I've got to get some milk and butter. I'm gonna some kids, man. The kids are just the cost of living crisis. I'm talking about £100 million for rice.
Yeah,
butter and all that stuff and everything. So I'm going to be rocking my Arsenal shirt. Even though it's 11 o'clock, it's 10 o'clock now. I'm bowling down here with my Arsenal shirt, mate. We're back. But all the best, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Coming your edge, we'll be back as soon as we get a few more bodies over the line. All the best.